Welcome to Book Chat. Joining me for this month's buddy read is my friend and fellow audiobook listener and reviewer, Classy Green. Don't miss this candid discussion of the book, The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this week's Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Every week, we get bookish with roundtable book discussions, recommendation lists, 5-minute shelf bites, interviews, and more. Subscribe on your podcatcher of choice so that you don't miss out on any of this book nerd awesomeness. Today is another episode of my feature called Buddy Reads. This is where me and a fellow book nerd have a casual conversation about a standalone title. Grab a glass of wine, a cup of tea, or your drink of choice and settle in for this fun discussion. If you'd like to join me on a future Buddy Reads, reach out to me via shelfaddiction.com. This is a book chat, so as always, there's a spoiler alert in effect. Hey guys, welcome back. My good friend and fellow reviewer, Classy Green, is here with me again. Classy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Tamara. My name is Classy Green. As Tamara said, a fellow reviewer, avid reader, and it's our second time doing a buddy read. Second time, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, I don't know what else to say really about myself. Avid reader.
You love audiobooks. Don't forget that.
Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. It's like when you say that, I think my heart fluttered a little bit. Yeah. I know it did. And I'm smiling. So enough said. Enough said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad that you had listened to this before an audiobook and you had recommended that I listen to this on audiobook. I was really happy for that because you were right. Listening to The Poet X on audio was the best way to absorb this content for sure.
Yes, it was. So this is my second time reading it. The first time I did the audiobook. So this time I decided to do the audio and read along in print. And I saw some things that I didn't see before. So I won't go any further. I will let you start. But yes, I may have increased my rating, I think, after I read this book, with both versions. So.
Really? So,
yes.
Okay. All right. We'll get to the ratings at the end and you can tell me your then and now rating.
Okay.
I think to kick things off, you guys, full disclosure, I was not excited to read this book at all. I was not excited. I had heard good things. But, I don't really like poetry, so I kind of thought that's what this was going to be. I had some assumptions about it that were incorrect. So I kind of was like, okay, sure, Classy, let's do it.
No. Let's be clear, Tamara. What did you really tell me in the text message?
Oh, I think I said, if I don't like it, I'm going to tell you or something. I don't know.
And you were like, and I will blame you for me not liking this book. And I said, I will take the fall for it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Because you were very adamant about, I don't like poetry.
Yeah.
No. But I'm so glad that we decided, well, you decided because, you were the one who came back to me and said, you know what? Let's do it. Because we had picked another book. So when you said that, you should have saw my face when I read it.
Well, what I was thinking was that, I'm already in the zone of trying to incorporate things that are new to me as far as reading this year. So I thought, why not do this, right? Everyone seems to love it. How bad could it be? Honestly, that's what I thought before I started. And then I thought also it would be good for the Shelf Addiction audience to also hear something different. We always do fiction on this station or on this podcast rather. And I thought this would be a great addition to that because it's something very different than what we usually talk about book-wise here on the podcast. So I listened. I enjoyed it, and we can talk about all things X.
Yay! She said
Yes.
enjoyed. That's all
Yes.
I need to hear. I don't
I
even
did
have to
enjoy
care
it.
about your rating. You said enjoy. My heart is smiling.
Yes, I did enjoy it. And it's funny because I feel like the first maybe 10 minutes, I was kind of like, what's going on exactly? Because I couldn't tell if I was reading a story or a poem. I couldn't tell what was going on. It took me about 10 minutes before I was like, oh, I'm in the groove. I know what's happening.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because she comes at you hard. And, I don't know. But like you say, it took you 10 minutes. I like poetry. I don't read it as much as I used to. I called myself a quote unquote poet my junior year in high school until probably maybe freshman year, sophomore year in college. I wrote poetry and was in a poetry group. So I liked it. Never did slam poetry. I've gone to some slam. My sister's a slam poet. I've gone to many events, with the finger snapping and everything that you see with Ziamara. So I enjoyed it from jump.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the book with me. I believe, stoop sitting, and I know that, like you said, it took you about 10 minutes to really get into it. But did you notice how she broke it up into 3 parts?
Yeah. She did. Although I think seeing it visually would have been more clear. But
Yes.
yeah, but I could tell that because she did audibly kind of say, like,
Right.
you
But it
knew it
was
was
quick.
something different. Yes.
Right. But so maybe should we give a little background
Yeah, let's talk
before?
about it. So, you guys, if you haven't heard of the poet X, the author is Elizabeth Acevedo, and this book got a lot of buzz, early 2018, mid 2018.
Yes.
And it's a young adult, it's recommended for grades 9 and up. And it is about a young girl, Zamora. Is it Zamora or Kimura? I don't know. They call her X.
Ziomara.
Ziamara.
Yeah.
And she is 15/16, and she lives in Harlem. And she's one of the young women whose body grew really quickly. And early. So she had some issues and kind of even expressing herself and being heard from all sorts of places, from her family, from, what do you call those? Friends? Like, what do you
Right.
call those friends? Friends or
Yeah.
classmates. I mean, she just had
Right.
a lot of, outward issues involving her self-image and as well as some religion because this book is about, I think, people from the Dominican Republic, if I remember right, the DR.
Yes. Right.
So there's a
Okay.
lot of that kind of, like, what do you want to call it? Tradition and
The
philosophies.
culture.
Yep, yeah,
Right.
right.
The culture, their beliefs. Right. And yeah, she's not the quiet type. And she's constantly felt like she's being pushed down with everything. Here she has this body that she didn't ask for, but she's constantly being told, cover, hide it. And it's like, and her voice, hide it. I felt like everything about her, they wanted to hide. And she had this gift. And I mean, the gift from her body, from everything that she didn't ask for and couldn't find no way of expressing. It's like, I need to let this out, but everybody wants me to hide it. So
Yeah. I mean, she
that's,
has even issues with her twin brother. And I mean, she's got a lot of baggage for a 15-year-old.
yes. And Elizabeth Acevedo, what I did like about this book is that she probably touched on every subject possible that you could think of as a teen, and maybe even some that I didn't think of or I forgot because, I'm up there in age. But, when I went back and looked at some of my notes, she talked about church, she talked about religion, parents, strict religious parents, cultural, like you were saying, the Dominican Republic parents, son versus daughter roles, siblings, friends, how she compared love to science, first love. It was just all of this in poetry, but told in a story format. It was
Yeah.
chronological. And I think that I believe that may be why it may have been such a hit, because she told this story chronologically, quickly, because this book was only 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was quick, but it
It
was
was powerful.
there was a lot packed into that 3 hours and 30
It
minutes.
was. It really was. And there were points where I felt like I had to slow down because I knew it was 3 hours. And if I would have really sat down and listened to it through, in that full 3 hour time frame, like you said, there was a lot in there that I would have missed, even though it's my second time and I did notice some things I missed before. But it was one of those books where you need to slow down, because there were some points I had to
Rewind.
get my
I rewind.
emotions in
Yeah.
check. Yeah,
Ah,
I had
okay.
to rewind,
Hmm.
and I had to get my emotions. Yeah, because she does talk fast, and
Yes.
she does talk fast. So yeah,
Because the
there are
author
some things.
narrated her own book, so you guys should know that.
Yes.
She did not have a different narrator. And that, I think, alone had me feeling what she was writing more, because you could feel her emotion, her
Yeah.
strength behind the words. But like you said, she talks fast, because usually I listen on a 1.2 to 1.5. And so it was
No.
already set at 1.5. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not going to work. And then I go down to
Uh-uh.
1.2 and I'm like, nope, that's a little fast too. So I'm just going to go down to
Yes.
regular because she talks
Right.
fast.
And like
Yeah.
you said too, if someone else would have narrated this book, maybe it could have been someone of Latin descent, because of um, the inflection, is that, or intonation? You
Mm-hmm.
needed that pace, because when you're in New York, I mean, you and I, we were in New York this summer. So, the New Yorkers, they talk fast, and then you have the Latin, those two mixed together. I don't think I
Super
heard.
fast.
Right. I was going to say, I don't think I heard too many New Yorkers that spoke slow. So,
No.
she did speak fast, and you had to listen, but her feelings behind these words, gosh, it gave me chills sometimes, when I think about, some of the poetry. So I decided
Yeah.
right away that I liked the book.
Yeah.
Right away. It brought me back to when she says stoop sitting. Granted, where I lived, it wasn't, brownstones with stoops, but sitting on the porch, watching the guys go by.
Girl,
Summer.
yes. Look, a lot of these took me back, because like my
Right?
grandmother lives in, well, she lived, she's gone now, but she lived in Detroit, and she had a stoop on her front porch of her
Yes.
home. So we would like fight for the seat, like right on the stoop on the front. And we would sit there and
Right.
watch people pass and like talk
Thank
to
you.
people. And it was like, wow, it's like, wow, this is the same for all of us, basically.
Right. Because there's a certain spot on that stoop where you either can be seen first, or you get to see first who's coming through. You know what I mean? You got to position
Yeah.
yourself right. So when she was talking about stoop sitting and what they were, I was like, it brought me back to the 80s. I was
Girl,
like,
yes.
yes. So, and I think that's what it was, that even though this was written in 2018, and she does talk about, granted, it was written in 2018, she wrote it current time. She talked about Drake, she talked about J. Cole, who else? Kendrick Lamar. So, it was really
Yeah.
current times. But it's the thing that resonated with me is that regardless of time, the things she talked about touched every generation.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying, this is my second time reading it. I read it with my other book club, which is Most Girls Read, and we have every age group from because I think you have to be 18 to 60 is our age range. And every woman in that group that replied to the question said some part of this story, they were Ziamara. So, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's why this book was so powerful, that even though it's YA, it spoke to probably every woman.
I think that this book not only transcends time, but it also crosses minorities, like diverse, even,
Yes,
it's like just the
right.
things that we deal with.
Yes,
So
as
you can
women.
be, yes, as women, it's a women thing. If you're a woman,
Yes,
you can relate to a lot of the things that are going on in this book.
exactly. You are so right. Transcending time, transcending race. It's all about women. And I got a copy of the book because I wrote to her, who is it? Not her agent. It may be her agent. And I told her, that our group, was reading her book. So she sent me a signed copy and she said, I wrote this for you, and I think she wrote that to everyone, meaning to you women, to you girls, and I was like, when I read this, I was like, yes, this is for, so every girl I know who's looking for a book, who's not really a reader, but just wants something quick, I recommend this book.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, I got so much more out of it than I was expecting. It almost like blew my mind a little bit. Like, wow, this is so good. I
Yeah,
had that same reaction to, when X listens to that woman do her poetry in that at the beginning of English class that day, and
right.
she's like, so like, wow, like
She was like,
she's
that's
so,
me. I can
yeah,
relate to her. And
yeah,
that,
that's how I felt about this book.
yeah, yeah. And, gosh, it was, I marked like so many poems because it's like you start marking this poem, you're like, oh, I like this one. Oh, I like that one. And before I know it, my book is full of flags, full of post-it notes, full of, because it's like, yes, that one touches me. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about this. And she did. She just woke something up in me. Even as an adult, sometimes our voices, um, we have that fear sometimes of um, being able to face our fears or talking to people because we have gifts. Who would have known, just you and I talking, that you're a great podcaster or a reviewer of books, and you have to find that safe place of somebody where everybody knows your name, such as in Cheers. And I think
Yeah.
that's what this book was, is that here this girl was in a house full of people who were her relatives, but who could not relate to her. And, family is important, but you also need to find your tribe, or someone that you can confide in, or someone who can mentor and can speak to your spirit. And I liked how she, blended that with religion, and how she blended, how religion, she questioned the church and wasn't afraid. And I was like, little girl.
You know what? That actually reminded me of something that my husband told me he experienced. He went to Catholic school
Hmm.
growing up, and he questioned some of the same things that
Yeah.
Zamora cancel, questioned, as far as, the
Right.
dinosaurs and, different things. And he
Yeah.
told me they reacted very badly to him
Yes.
questioning anything.
Yes. Because they're the authorities. They know everything. And she even said, here, my brother, who's super smart, genius smart, and he believes all this religious things. And it makes you just wonder that what kind of religion won't allow me to ask questions and you don't have the answers to them. And I get, God, all being. I believe in God, but as a child, when you're just told to do, and do as I say and listen. because that's basically it when you're younger. Newer
Yeah.
generation, they're more allowed to question. But, especially with her culture, you didn't question. And then her mother wanted to be a nun.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
mean,
that,
honestly, I feel bad for her mother because she ended up in a life that she didn't want. Number
right.
one.
Yes. And then she's like, you know what? Since I can't do it, I'm going to push it on my child.
She imposed that on her and
Yep.
made her life miserable because of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, and, and that's that mother-daughter dynamic because, that happens every day.
I'm not even going to lie. Her mother is a little psycho. Like, I,
Just a little.
that's how I felt. Like, man, she's
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
Oh,
she would not
yeah.
listen to one word she had to say. She's calling her all kind of 3-letter, she's calling her
Yes.
hoes. I'm like,
Yep.
all she did was be seen kissing a boy.
Yeah.
And suddenly she is the biggest hoe on the planet.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Even
what
her
kind of
father.
mother? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
who does that? Like, dude.
Because you know what? I think that's that fear. So if I put this fear in you, because the thing is that she tried to put the fear of God in her. Well, that didn't work. The girl wouldn't take the wafer. She wouldn't.
Oh,
She
man.
was feeding the mice, as she would say in the book. She would take that
God,
wafer,
the
spit
body
it
of
out.
Christ is feeding the mice now. That's what she
Yes,
said. Yeah.
yes. And so, the fear of God didn't work. So what
Yeah.
other way than to make her feel less than to, denigrate her body and make her feel less than where, okay, so now all I have is my mom because, I don't want to be this. I don't want to disappoint. But she was so strong. I think she was a lot stronger than she thought she was. And her writing helped her see that. And, there was one point in the book where she was saying that she didn't think her brother knew her that well. And then I thought to myself, and I was like, Ziamara, don't you remember he's the one who got you the book? He's the one who left the flyer for you. But I think that might have been at a point where she was mad at him. But, he knew she was
Yeah.
talented. He knew that she had a gift.
He did. But I also see why she was upset with him, though. I mean, she was upset with him a couple of times,
Yeah,
of which, one that stands out to me is like, you can't stand up for yourself. Like, I'm always fighting for you. And his
yeah,
parents never knew that she was fighting for him. Instead, it's, oh, she's such a trouble. Why
yeah,
can't you just act like this? And she's defending her brother, like what he
yeah.
should have been doing for her, the opposite.
Right. But he had his own secrets too.
He did. He
Yeah,
did.
so I think he knew too, hey, she has hers, but mine is probably even worse than hers because not only do I not fit the Dominican stereotype of a male, swagger and misogyny, and all that, but here I am, I'm scrawny, I'm timid, and I'm gay,
He's very
you know,
smart.
very smart, right? He doesn't fit not one stereotype of a Dominican Republic male. Um, so he was probably when I saw that, I saw myself not on the gay aspect, but on the aspect of sometimes when you're in a family, when you have a louder one or, something else going on, sometimes you want to make yourself smaller so no one sees what's going on with you or what's wrong, you know?
The art of distraction. Look over there.
Yeah,
Don't look at me. Look
right.
there.
Yes, because I too, like Ziamara, um, I didn't have the boobs, but I had the hips and the butt. So I had the attention of men, boys, men mostly because the boys didn't really know, or the older boys, I would say. The boys my age had no idea. It was you're fat, you're this, and that. But the older boys thought, ooh, like they said, that's too much body for you or whatever. So I always tried to hide myself. But I also was a
Mm-hmm.
victim of sexual abuse. So, but I never told anyone until
Mm.
later on in life. So here I am. I have a secret. Here, I had a family member who was louder and more rambunctious and likes to fight. And I was kind of like, oh, good. Now all the attention is over there with her and nobody's going to see, me over here who's really hurting. I got all A's, I tried to be the perfect child. So no one saw anything was wrong with
Mm.
Classy. So
Mm-hmm.
I did relate to Xavier. So, and again, how this woman, this author, I mean, when I dig so much into her book, how she touches the themes, all the themes that this girl talks about in this, the woman talks about in this book is, I could go on and on and on about the themes that she touches. But yeah, she does. She does get upset with Xavier. And she did know, but until you know that you know, because how do you just say to your
Well,
brother, you know,
are you
I
gay?
think you're
Well,
gay?
look,
Yeah,
this is the thing though. Like, honestly, that scene where they're at the basketball court and she notes that he's looking at somebody hard the same way she's looking at those boys hard. That
right.
very second, I'm like, oh, he's gay. He just hasn't
Mm-hmm.
said anything. I'm like, I
Right.
know that's what it is
Yeah.
immediately.
Right. Because she made eye contact with him, and I think he either dropped his head or turned his. You know what I mean? He
Mm-hmm.
tried to divert, but yeah, and then, but yeah, but it's still you still kind of want to be in denial. Um, I think she wanted to be in denial, like no, maybe.
And not even for him. I think well, not in denial because he is gay, but in denial for what that will mean for him and their family.
Yeah, you're
You know what
right.
I'm saying? So it
Yeah,
was more about, oh man, you think I
mommy.
got it bad. Wait till they find this out kind of
Yeah, wait
thing.
till
Not that
mommy
she
and
thought it
poppy.
was bad that he was gay.
Right, because they were the miracle babies. So
Mm-hmm.
miracle baby should be perfect. You're right. You are so right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I forgot about
And
that.
that
I
also
didn't see that.
plays into how the parents treat them because that whole little segment, I think she had 3 different poems on being a child of old parents.
Yes. Yes. Old parents. Her dad was a what do they call that? He was a whore or male whore basically
Yeah.
who
He played
who
around like
yeah.
women. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then he stopped listening to music because music made you fall in love and do things you shouldn't do. So, yeah, and I was laughing at that because this weekend I watched Coco. So I was like, Coco, they didn't want any music in the house. And then, Ziomara's papa, he stopped listening to music. And she was like, what kind of life do you live that you no longer want to listen to music? Because you're
Well,
afraid of
he
what
had
music
these
will do.
miracle babies. He had to straighten up. That means,
Yep.
guess what? Anything you really love, you have to like pay penance for these miracle babies that you got. Like, oh, thank you,
Thank you,
for
Lord,
blessing
right?
us.
Everything
Yeah.
right for all the wrong I did. This is
Yes.
what you gave us because they were, I don't know, all we know is they were old parents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let me see here. I'm going to ask you a question. Which poems, um, caused some strong emotions from you? Can you remember any of them?
I
Or
want to
elicited some
say,
kind of strong emotional reaction?
uh, actually,
Or can
I
you
kind
remember a
of,
part of the story?
well, honestly, several parts of the story. I
Yeah.
mean, I verbally reacted, for example, not that I have an equivalent story or anything, but when you're 12 or 13 or whatever, and you get a period, you remember that. So when she
Yes.
told, when she was writing her assignment about something that was memorable, like something that affected her in a major way, and she tells that story about the period, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, her mother, I'm like, what a bitch. I'm like, why would she do
I
that to her child?
know. And
I'm
told her
like,
not to
that
have a
really,
tampon. Oh
it
God, that
really
hurt my heart.
affected me. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what are you saying? So you can't be a good girl and use a tampon? Like, that really upset me, like, in so many ways. So I was very pissed off right after reading that or listening to it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
Like,
but it
it's already
happened.
bad enough that your body is changing. You really don't know what's going on. And like in her situation, she really
Nobody
didn't have
told her.
guidance. Nobody told her. She Googled it. Like, what do
Yeah.
I do? Let's take a moment to refresh our drinks. And while you're doing that, let me segue into today's special pop-up promo. I'm excited to share with you another podcast in the book community. Check out Make It Modern.
Are you looking for a history podcast to grab some quotes for a last-minute paper? Or maybe your presentation on Jane Eyre needs a punch-up?
Then do not listen to us.
Do not.
Like, we're begging of you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kelsey, and we host Make It Modern, a podcast where we talk about history, literature, and all things made before the year 2010, in a way that would probably be frowned upon by any teacher.
We basically delve into the past and stumble into the present.
We discuss things like what type of rosé is appropriate for a medieval execution,
and how we've all been Bingley'd one time or another.
So if you love hearing about people, places, and things with so many issues they could be a Julia Michaels song, join us every Thursday on Spotify and iTunes.
And be sure to follow us on Facebook at Make It Modern, and also on Twitter and Instagram at @MIM_podcast.
Yep. Exactly.
And like,
so nobody
for
told her
me,
to get a pad.
yeah.
Or this is going to happen.
Well, thinking back to my childhood, honestly, like, we didn't have any birds and bees conversations with our parents. We didn't have any, like, this is your body conversations with our parents. Me and my sister sort of figured it out. We figured it out just like she did. There were no, I mean, honestly, like, I bet she didn't even have a birth control conversation, so obviously she's not supposed to be having sex, right?
Right.
The extent of the birth control situation from my parents, actually, my father said, I already have my kids, and you better not have no kids. I'm not raising no kids. That's pretty much all he said.
Yep,
that's
the
it.
Fear. Close your legs.
Like, okay.
Keep your legs closed.
But he didn't even say that. So I'm like,
no,
okay.
Oh God.
So, I mean, obviously, I don't have any kids. So, I didn't have, it wasn't a teenage mom or anything crazy like that. But it's like, thinking back, like, the parents do these kids a disservice by not talking to them. Like, something as simple as, hey, you're about that age. You might be getting a period soon. In this house, this is how we like to deal with that, right?
Right. And what happens when you have a period? You are no longer a young, you know what I mean? You can have babies now. I don't even think I was told that. I know my mom told me that, I'm trying to think back. The only way we had the menstrual cycle talk was, there was a girl in my class, in gym class, called Diane. Her name was Diane. And she had her period. And she said, you know what? By summer, you should be having yours. And I'm like, how the heck you know? Like, what does she know that I don't know? Well, I was getting little buds. So she probably, figured, because she had older sisters. So I asked my mom about it. And she said, you might. And this is what you do. And she, she said, if you do, she told me about a pad. And that was about it. Never did we talk about, now you'll have babies. Now, my mother was pregnant at the time with my youngest sister. So that's what, 11-year difference. The funny thing is the day my mother went into labor with my sister, I started my period. But my mother was in the hospital. My mother was in the hospital.
Wow.
So here I am, like you said, like, oh God, what do I do? So I didn't know about pads. I didn't know about, or where she kept them or whatever. So here I'm just, making my way, and I did
figuring it out.
Yeah, and then I called her and she told me what to do. But still, we never did have that talk about, now you can have babies. It was, kissing leads to things. Okay, what things do they lead to? Hello,
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah.
But they never tell you. I think the thing is and like Elizabeth spoke in this book, they never tell you that kissing feels good. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what your body is going to feel like, and there's really nothing wrong with it, but there's things you need to know what to do, but they just made it seem like it's just bad, 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 bad. And I think that's why we have so many hangups. My generation, I don't know about your generation, the hangups we did have about sex. Okay, it feels so good, but why is everybody saying it's so wrong? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Can somebody tell me?
I mean, she even mentioned like masturbation and how shameful she
Yes,
felt about it. I'm like, wow, like that's
she
awful.
did.
Yeah. And no wonder she has issues with the church because her mom enforces that. She's like, anything like that is other than nunly, basically. If you're not
Yeah.
acting like a nun 24/7, it's all bad.
Yeah, and thank God for Mrs. Galliano, who,
Yeah.
and I mean, granted, she let her, with her voice, but I was glad that Amon came into her life. I really was because, she was that little flower, and he blossomed. They blossomed together. It wasn't like a quick, I just want sex from you. They had chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
and like she talked about their love relationship of, they met in science and, how the body reacts to different things or how science is in love. I really enjoyed, her and Amon's relationship, from, playing hooky and going to the
Oh, that
park.
was fun. Yeah.
Yes, and
Ice
sharing
skating. It was so cute. I'm like,
yes,
oh,
he's like, I am good on skates. It was just all those little
it's really
things, and
cute.
it just brought me back to young love and how innocent and how if we do it the right way, and I'll just say me because I'm a parent, and I tried. Lord knows I probably didn't. If you ask my kids, it'd probably be a totally different version of what I believe I talked to them about. But when you see how innocent and great it is to be in love, it's a beautiful thing. And you can only do so much. I mean, how many kids do we know who knew about the birds and the bees and contraceptives and still wind up, being pregnant? How many adults? Well, we'll just take the teenage aspect out of that. That I think that's what we tend to forget is teenagers. I've told them and this and that, and they still. Well, how many adults know to use contraceptive and know, this is what happens when you don't. It happens. But to not talk about it and try to downplay it just makes it worse. And they didn't give her, advice on, here, this girl, he broke her heart. And I mean, granted, I don't think he broke her. She was just upset with him because he didn't take up for her. But
Well,
yeah,
okay, so the situation we're talking about, guys, so this guy grabs her butt and she turns around and she sees Amon kind of down the hall or something. And, she goes off on the guy and because he didn't say anything, like she expected him to have her back and defend her because as she, this character had mentioned already, she's tired of always having to be the loud one, the aggressive one. Why do I always have to cuss people out? And,
she has to
and
use
I
these
think she was hoping that
hands.
Amon would have her back on that, and he didn't.
Right. He did. But I mean, he was and that's the thing. It's like, how would I say it with having boys? So many times the things that we do put on them, especially at that age, did he know that was something he was supposed to do? He
He
didn't
should
have
have.
his,
Come on.
he didn't have a
Look,
mom,
okay.
and granted he had a dad, but you know what? That's the thing though. Sometimes you think that's what they're supposed to do, but let's go back to Xavier. Would Xavier have done that?
Well, Xavier is a wimp. He couldn't defend himself. He couldn't take care of himself, let alone
But that's
someone
what I'm
else.
just saying. There's so many times these are the things that we think. He's a man. He's supposed to do that. But every man
I
is
think
different.
about this. I think about it like this. You're in high school. You get in a fight. Your boys come and help you, right?
Yeah.
If someone tries to jump you, your boys jump in.
True.
This is your friend. Even if y'all not quote unquote together at this point, you like her. She is your friend. You see something that clearly upsets her. You can tell by the look on her face.
Yep.
You don't have to say, "Oh, is that right or wrong?" Dude, why did you do that? She's not saying, "Hey, beat him down." She just wanted him to speak, say something, and he couldn't do it.
Let's go back to when you were in high school. I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Girl.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Go back to
girl. Don't get me going up.
I know, but I mean, if you think about it, how many of those 16-year-old boys when you were in high school would have had the balls to speak up for you if somebody grabbed your butt? How many? Can you
Not
name?
many, but there would have been some. Not many, but there would have been some.
And that's where I think and I think that's what she was trying to say in this story. There's some, now this generation that's coming up now will say it. I have
but this
no
is
doubt.
now though. Remember, this is now, not then.
Yeah, you're right.
This is in the era of, people behaving badly, people doing inappropriate things. This is now.
Yeah. But not everybody is that outspoken. And I mean, when we even talk about Iman, he doesn't seem like that gangsterish, because did they even talk about his friends? He had a few friends.
Yeah.
He was a little nerdy. Because didn't he dress up for Halloween as like a superhero? Granted, it was a Halloween
He was
party.
Green Lantern or something. No, she was Green Lantern, so he was Hulk. That's what it was.
He was the Hulk. So it's like you hope and you pray that he would, but it's like when you put a 16-year-old boy in that kind of situation, what do you? I mean, you know what
that makes me wanna.
I know.
That makes me want to push pause and be like, ask my nephew who is 15. He'll be 16 in April. I want to ask him, yo, if you're talking to this girl,
but that's so like easy her, to say. It's easy to say on the spot.
I would love to just know his response. Like, I'm not even sure now after having this conversation what his response would be.
Right. But you know what? To say, oh, I do this and that. But when you're in that situation, because here's the other thing too with that situation. What kind of boys were these? Were these like the popular boys? Were these the tough boy? You know what I mean? She didn't give us all that, but those are the type of things you got to think about in a scenario. Like, why didn't he take up for her? I can't remember if he ever did say why he didn't. I think he just apologized.
He did.
But I mean, high school is awkward. High school is tough.
Girl, I remember high school. I hated it.
Thank you. It's
as
easy
most of us did.
Yeah, it's easy to say now, why didn't he do this and that? But I think back to some times I remember being in the hallway and somebody saying, look at your blah, 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 blah. And later on in the day, I was like, man, I should have told so-and-so blah, blah, blah. But in that moment, you're ridiculed. People are laughing at you. You're afraid because all you want to do is get to your next class because for the rest of the day, you know what I mean? So I just think back to my 16-year-old self. Sorry.
I hear you. But in that respect, I'm surprised Xiomara ever spoke to him again because she is not weak, right? She's a very strong individual.
Yes.
And I think it's out of necessity, not that she necessarily wanted to be. But guess what? She cursed that guy out basically and said, do that again. Ooh. And this is what I'm going to do to you. And she said, and you too, since you couldn't open your mouth.
She said, I will put my nail in every pimple on your face. I was like, oh, bet you won't touch her butt again. But
no. And guess what? That guy that did it didn't even come back for her. He didn't even come for her after that. He just was like,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause she
So that
used.
tells me the level of people you're dealing with. He wasn't going to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and the thing is too, what did they say? You can only be bullied for so long. Once you confront the bully, they usually leave you alone. That's what happened to my son. He had this guy in the neighborhood who his name was Robbie. Robbie bullied everybody. And one time, Robbie pushed my son. And to my father-in-law, my dad, I think my father-in-law saw Robbie push my son. And he took my son to the side and he said, "Don't you ever let anybody push you around like that. Now I want you to go back over there and handle your business," or something like that. And he went over there because I think he was just so upset that Grandpa saw him or whatever. And he hit Robbie. And I think he stunned Robbie so bad because Robbie wasn't used to anybody confronting him. Never had a problem again from the bully of the block. Matter of fact, they became good friends because, now I realize I'm not afraid of you. So yeah, that's the classic bully story. But back to Xiomara talking to Aman. Now you were saying you're surprised she didn't talk to him. So do you think
that she did talk to him again?
That she talked to him again. So and you said it was out of necessity, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, I think that she just grew up doing that because she was always defending her brother. She was always defending her body that was a little more voluptuous than it needed to be at that time.
Right. But so yeah, because she wound up having to go back to Aman. I don't know if I want to get to this part yet because the part that elicited a very strong emotional reaction for me is so they got caught kissing on the train, right? And then is that when she came home and her mom found the book, or was that after?
No, that was separate. So when she came home after being caught kissing, that's when she had to kneel in the rice.
Yes. So the poem Ants, I think that is like part of the time when she's down there kneeling. So, I listened to that and then I followed. And when you see the way she wrote this poem, ants, because it looks like ants traveling down the page. And when she reads it, again, like I was saying, to hear it and then to follow in the book, the way she wrote some of the verses is just powerful. To see the ants on the page. That was one that elicited a strong reaction out of me. But when she came home and her mother found her book of poems and burned them, oh my God, Tamara, I think I clutched my heart like, oh no, her mom is about to light her book on fire. I know. I sat there and I was just like, that part gets to me every time. The first time I read it, I was working out and, you're listening when you're doing other things, you're listening, you're not paying attention. I mean, you're paying attention, but you're constantly moving. But when she came to that part and said her mom had a light to that, I had to sit down because I was like you were saying, there was just a lot going. I had to sit down. I was like, no, mama, no, please don't burn that baby's book.
But that just reinforced for me how much I disliked her mother as a person.
Yes.
Like, why wouldn't you talk to her first? You just jump off the handle and just do something that makes your child run away, right?
Yeah.
But she ran away.
You got to remember, the mother was there. She had old parents. She had Dominican parents. That was her mother probably was raised in that generation where children were seen and not heard, and
I get it.
Yeah.
But that don't make it right.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And then for her mom to say, you don't think I don't know enough English that I know you're talking about me? Oh, God.
Well, get this. Don't get that twisted now. You never want your mom to find out you're talking smack about her. You never want that to happen.
Exactly. And she said, this is on fire. But
Yeah.
But it's like when Elizabeth reads that, it's almost like you can hear her voice catch, because she was just like, just let it, she was like, where's the garbage can, Zia? I was like, oh no.
Yeah, because
And
she's
then
like, I don't want ashes on my floor. I'm like, dang! Oh
yes,
my God!
I know. I think I almost was like,
Oh my God!
I think I might have
Yeah,
cursed. I was like, "Ee." Yeah, okay. So
yeah.
here I flagged the book, and it said, like claws reaching into your chest and snatching sharply every bit of air, leaving you breathless and wounded before you know what's happened. She's lit the match. I was like, oh no. And yeah, and then
And
she
in
says,
that
get a
same
trash.
passage, you could tell. In that same passage, you could tell that she was fighting her own instinct to like fight her mother for that book.
Yes. Because she wanted to so bad. Right. Because she says, I'm
Mm-hmm.
digging my fingers into the door frame. It's the only thing holding me up, holding me back. My anger wants to become a creature with teeth and nails, but I keep it collared because this is
It's my
my
mother.
mother and I am sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Girl,
Yep.
my heart. Because you know what? That right there is that dynamic of that mother-daughter, those passages that we just read or talked about, that's just the dynamics of that mother-daughter relationship, the fighting of the power.
Mm.
And like you said, why couldn't you just talk to her?
Yeah.
And I was glad that Xiomara left, because she
Yeah.
didn't have support from her
Her
daddy.
mother would have did something to her, I think.
Ooh, wee baby. Yes, she would have.
Yeah. She
Because
was
if
going
she
to do
made her
something to
kneel
her.
on rice, because kneeling on rice is no, I accidentally had some rice on the floor and got one in my knee. I've laid in some gravel before, so I can imagine, like falling in gravel and you hit your knee. So can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine kneeling on rice? So yeah, she would have did something even worse, because she didn't see that as
Man.
being of God. So she needed to get that out of her. Like an
And I
exorcism.
cannot, like, that whole scene kind of was dramatic in like the worst way, because I cannot, thank goodness, relate to that at all. In the fact that I was very fortunate not to have that kind of rage toward my mother, because my mother was not like that.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine wanting to fight your mother and
Yeah.
holding yourself back. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
mean, I've had those
crazy.
feelings. There were things that my mother has said to me, or where my mother slapped me across my face. So I did relate, not to the extent of like with the religion and, not being able for my voice to be heard. But there, I did have sometimes that tumultuous relationship with my mother, especially with me having a sister who is 11, 12 years younger than I am, where I felt, well, it wasn't I felt, I was her second mom. There were things I couldn't do because I had to take care of my sister, or, I didn't feel like I had the opportunity to be a child because my mother had to work and I had to babysit. So some of the things, even though that's not what Xiomara talked about, that mother-daughter dynamic, it took,
That was very volatile.
it
Like,
was,
it's dangerous.
yeah. And for her, to go into, Amon's arms, I really liked how he treated her when she called him. I thought it was touching that she could call him and he listened to her. I don't know. Did they? I can't remember. I don't think they had sex, did they? They might have got close.
No, they didn't. But it
Yeah.
sounded like they got real close. And she was
Right.
like, whoa, what's
Right.
that going on down there?
Right.
No.
Yeah. And I think she realized that at that moment, that's not what she wanted.
Yeah.
She needed comfort,
Yep.
but she didn't need that. And I was like, yes,
That. Yeah.
girl. Yes, because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I think it was a lot of heavy petting, but
I mean,
but
it sounded
nothing
like
else.
there were some things. Yeah, it sounded like if she didn't stop things right there, they definitely would have had sex. They were
Mhm.
right there, I
Yeah,
think,
right. They were
because she even made the point of saying something like, "Oh, hopefully, they usually call girls teases and stuff or something like that." Like she had
right.
alluded to being called a tease if she stopped things right there,
Yeah.
but she did. Good
Yep.
for her.
Yep. And I think, like you had mentioned earlier, she had to fight all my life. I had to fight.
Yeah, right.
But here I think he knew that he had to listen to her because you witnessed her wrath. So he knew, okay, Z said stop, we stop. So,
Yeah.
and he respected that.
Like you want all your body parts attached to your body, so you
Hmm.
definitely should stop.
Yes, because she will fight. She was not afraid to fight. But um, so how about Father? Dang it, what was the father's name? Father, the priest.
To Gabriel or something. I don't know. I don't remember. But
Right.
I mean, I don't remember his name, but
Let me see if I can find it.
I don't know. I kind of felt he was just, I don't know. I didn't feel anything about him. He was just a priest. I feel like if he's the same one that came to like talk her mother down when she went back home,
Mm-hmm.
that was good. But I don't know. I didn't feel any like strong feelings about him or his situation or how he kind of. The most I felt about that was thank goodness he was there when she needed him
Mm-hmm.
to kind of mediate her home situation.
Father Sean.
That was important.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was his name was Father Sean. And
Yeah.
I think, how would I say it? I think that was just her idea of how the church is. Well, she basically did say that that's kind of how the church is when it comes to um, certain things. But I think with knowing that because he couldn't answer her questions of uh, science and Eve. Oh, let me go back to that. How she said that how she didn't like in the Bible, everything about the woman was the bad thing. Eve ate the apple. Eve, if she didn't do this, and women, I was like, yeah, you're right. Everything that the woman did
Well, like
was
she said, well, why, God never said, why can't you eat the apple?
right. Yes.
You know?
There was no real answers. And I think that's how she tried to explain like the church and religion and our questions that sometimes they don't have the answers. And sometimes we have to find those answers. But he was a mediator for her and her mother because that was the only way her mother was going to listen to her. Her mother wasn't going to listen to Miss Galliano. Um, I think the only way that her mother may have taken, or the father took the call from Miss Galliano, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the mother wasn't going to listen to her. The only way, and that was the thing that Xiomara knew, that the only way that her and her mother could have some kind of conversation was for Father Sean to be there. So Father Sean was for the mother and Miss Galliano was for her. Poppy was just there. Her daddy was just there. Like she said in the one poem, just because you got have a father in the house does not mean you have a father in the house. Because
Exactly.
that's all he was. He sat
I
there and
think a
watched
lot of
TV.
people can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. That poem, I think I wrote that down too as a poem that kind of touched me. Yeah, Poppy. It was just like, wow. That one little poem just summed it up. Dad just, summed up dads. Not every dad. I won't say that. But some dads. A
Mm-hmm.
provider, and that's about it. But yes, anything else you want to talk about with this book?
I feel like we've covered a lot, and I really hope that, people listening read the book or at least listened to it, because I know we were kind of free flow talking about it in a way that wasn't very chronological or
But
succinct,
we tried to
but
go chronologically.
yeah, we did. But hearing us, I don't know. Hopefully you will get some feelings out of this like we did, and you'll, take from this conversation some of the stuff that we did, and definitely let us know what you thought of the book. And or even let us know, if hearing us talk about this book makes you want to read that book. I would love to know that as well.
I would too.
Because I don't think we spoiled anything too dramatic. I think,
Right.
I don't think we did.
No. And no, I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so.
Because there was so much in this short book. We could probably keep talking about different things on and on and on.
Yeah. Like we said earlier, she touched on so many topics. So yeah, but I did enjoy that it was poetry told in a story format. She had the 3 sections that she broke down into like Bible sections. She had, in the beginning was the Word. That was part 1. Part 2, and the Word became flesh. That was part 3,
Mm-hmm.
part 2. And then part 3 was the voice of one crying in the wilderness. So, she pieced her poetry together beautifully. And I think a lot more poets are doing this. I know, and then I know we have to close this up soon, but Jacqueline Woodson did, is it Brown Girl Reading? Not Brown Girl Reading. Brown Girl Dreaming. That book is kind of done in this format. Kwame Alexander, he has 2 books out. Solo and I think Swing are done in that format too. So I think that it almost brings people who don't really enjoy poetry into this kind of draws them in, where it tells a story.
Because there's connective tissue. That's why. No, seriously, when you're just reading a book of poems, it's like, okay, but when you have like a story that ties everything together, it makes it easier to digest and you understand, I think, the poems on a different level than just reading them and trying to sort them out without any context.
Right. Because, I mean, a book of poetry could just be, like you said, just a book of poems. You're not sure what content. Was this on a good day? Was this a bad day? Because, I mean, the connective tissue is important here.
Yeah, absolutely. This book is a National Book Award and Golden Kite Honor Award winner. So definitely, I mean, come on, that says a lot for me to say this book was good. If you have similar reading style to me and you don't usually read poetry, I definitely think you should give this a try. This would be a great way to dip your toe in the pool and see if you like it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Dip. Yes.
Okay, let's rate it. And then I want you to tell me your difference in then and now rating. Okay. But I'll just say I rated this 4 bookmarks out of 5. Okay. It was so good. I was a stone's throw away from 5, but I just went with 4, even though I was right there. I was almost at a 5, but I can't do halves. Right. So I had to go with 4. So you tell me what your rating was and what it is now and why you changed it.
It was a 4. And I changed it to a 5. And I believe I changed it to a 5 because I began to see some things that I didn't notice the first time. And I read along with the book, as well as with the audio. And like I said, the way she did some of her verses, like the haikus and the format and the style, I appreciated the way she did this. So I think out of respect of what she did with this book, how she pieced it together, it was like she did it. I mean, I can't even explain it to you. If you do both books together, well, for me, I had to give her, as the kids say, much props. I mean, she did an excellent job of narrating, writing, style, all that. So that's why I changed my 4 to a 5.
Wonderful.
But again, I like poetry. So I had to give her her credit.
I think that I will be buying this book because now I feel like seeing some of the poems on the page will definitely, I guess, give me a new, fresh take on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll read it anytime soon, but definitely I think this is something that should be on my shelf so I could, look at and mark up and all of that.
Yeah, that's what I think too, just having this on your shelf. And if you know someone, just say, hey, check it out. But again, this is one of those books that you really do need to have Elizabeth read. You need to hear her voice because it doesn't, Tell them to do audio first, then, or do both because she's phenomenal as a narrator. Yeah.
Yay. So we both recommend this. Definitely give us your feedback on this discussion. Let us know what you think. You can find me on Twitter. You can find Classy on Twitter. All of our links are in the show notes. And yeah, I hope you'll join us for another Buddy Reads. I'm sure Classy will be back again because I have a laundry list of books I'm going to make her read.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Bring it.
Bring it. Yep, I'm ready. I'm glad you decided to do this. So, all right, Tamara.
All right, awesome. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll catch you on the next book chat. Take care. Happy reading. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.